Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of the 2022 LEG Fantasy Football season. I am your humble commish, and boys, it's great to be here. We have football. Finally, NFL is back. The season kicks off tonight. Hopefully, this is airing on Thursday night. But thank you to everyone that made it out to the draft there at Center Point. What a draft it was. It was late. Hey, even James Yarnell showed up. That's great. But yes, let's get to it. The elephant in the room is we are coming off a season where we saw Austin Stoll capture his third championship victory in a row, thus cementing himself in the Hall of LEG Legends. And he is here again to continue the tradition of grading your all's NFL drafts. So let's get to it. The proclaimed fantasy football expert and has the credentials, frankly. We're going to bring on Austin Stoll, and we're going to rate and grade this year's draft class. Well, it is that time of year again. The season is about to kick off, and unfortunately, for the third time in a row, I'm bringing on the previous winner to review this year's LEG fantasy football draft. It is the three-time champion, Austin Stoll. How are you, Mr. Stoll?
Doing well. How about you, Mr. Brake?
Oh, not so great. I really regret that I have to talk to you again, because that means you've won it 3 years in a row. And pretty much you're doing exactly what you told me you do, wanting to get into this league. Were you at all surprised that you won last year?
I mean, no, but
that's a dumb question.
I mean, there were some close games, right? It looked like there were some couple teeters,
Yeah.
but I was able to have the most consistency. Oh, Tom Brady Brake, what's up, dude?
It's the future commissioner. How are you, Hunter? He just wanders on set randomly, but no, did you seriously ever imagine that you would win 3 championships in a row?
I don't think I imagined winning 3 in a row, but I certainly knew that I was going to do something. As I always contest, there's no coincidence in your downfall and your ability in the league with me joining and not helping you.
Yeah, I agree, Hunter. I agree. Well, Mr. Stoll, let's just dive right into it. We're going to review this year's draft class, and don't knock that over, little brat. We're going to review this year's draft class, and then you're going to give me your grade. I'm going to tell you what Yahoo gave the team, and we'll see how close they are. So let's start out with the worst draft this year, and that would be David McCready and the Indy Pounders. Got a D+. This team, I don't think it's as low as it should be. I mean, he started off with Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, but then it kind of went downhill from there. What's your take on Mr. McCready's team?
I would probably give it just looking at the roster, give it a C, just because he's got the biggest question mark is obviously at running back, right? Derrick Henry, as long as he stays healthy, we know what he can do. But Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, James Cook just drafted in the second round or third round from Georgia. That's a dynamic player. The running back is such a key piece in our league. He doesn't have a solid second guy. He's got Damian Harris on the bench from New England, but again, same thing. Is it him? Is it the 5 other guys that Belichick runs? So you just never know. I had Stafford last year. I think he's a great pick. But then, he's got Noah Fant at tight end, and he's also got DK Metcalf, who he's not starting. So he unknowingly stacks 2 people. And then you don't even know you have, was it Geno Smith throwing to them in Seattle? So who knows what that's going to look like. And then you've got Deontay Johnson, who we know is good, but it's Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback in Pittsburgh. Are we going to get
some shoulder Mitchell concerns Trubisky too? Yeah.
Or are we going to get, is Kenny Pickett coming in? I mean, it's just I was listening to something the other day about how Deontay Johnson kind of rushed to get this 2-3 year extension he got. And it's because the analysts were saying he was looking at his quarterbacks that he has now, and he wants to get his paycheck now because he might have a down year because they're not playing well, which would affect him. So just kind of curious how that goes. And Michael Pittman Jr., I think, will have a good year. I like Matt Ryan in Indy. I think he's a lot better than Carson Wentz.
I knocked it down. I knocked it down.
So
Yeah.
I knocked it down.
Yeah. So what was your final grade?
I was going to give it a C.
C. Okay.
Give it a C. Yeah.
Whew. Okay, let's move on to the next team. Seamless transition to the next team. This is the Hoffa winner from last year, Nick Shook, who I thought actually had a better draft this year than his previous draft years, not drafting just Ohio State alumni. But Yahoo gave him a C-. What's your take on the Hoffa's, the second-time Hoffa winner, Nick Shook?
I loved his draft. I really liked it. I would give it at least a B+, if not an A-.
Whoa!
He took some players off my board that I had. You know, I'll always say, for me, what helps me win this league is not necessarily doing a little extra digging, but I would say every year I find a player. Really, it's like 3 or 4 players that are either rookies or they're not the big names. They're not always in the headlines, but they're in a position to make a lot of plays for their team, which helps me win because not everyone's chasing them. And then I've learned over the years as well, is especially with rookies, you just have to be patient with them. I drafted Justin Jefferson 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever he first came out. I held on to him for 6-7 weeks. He wasn't producing. I dropped him. I think you picked him up, and that's when he started taking off and exploding. So I was really pissed off about that. So I didn't do the same thing with Jamar Chase. Obviously worked out very well for me last year. But I did that with Micah Parsons. Knew what he was going to be in Dallas.
Yeah.
Just wasn't quite producing to what I was expecting because they kept moving him around, and then suddenly he's getting like 3-4 sacks a game and just putting up crazy points. So
right.
Shook actually took a couple players that I had on my radar, being Dameon Pierce and Chris Olave. I know Chris Olave, Ohio State guy, but if you watch just like mainstream NFL media stuff, Chris Olave in New Orleans has been a name that keeps coming up a lot about making plays. And if you pay attention to the training camp stuff, I mean, that's where I really kind of have an idea of the rookies and where, if they're draftable or where I should try and target them. So he got Chris Olave, probably more so because Ohio State than actually doing research or knowing anything about, the actual football aspect of it. And then Dameon Pierce, maybe he just pulled it out of a hat, but that is actually an excellent pick. The Houston backfield is chaos, or was chaos. They draft Dameon Pierce. He's out of Florida. He didn't have a ton of touches, but is definitely a flash in the pan. I mean, he's got speed. And they had Marlon Mack and they have Rex Burkhead. And during the draft, they still had Marlon Mack on the roster. They actually released him a few days later. Yep. So they got rid of Mack. So Dameon Pierce is lined up to be the guy. And obviously we know what Jonathan Taylor can do. I think Matt Ryan gives the Colts the ability to throw the ball more comfortably than in previous years. They don't have to rely on Taylor, but I think obviously Taylor, being the established guy that he is, you can always lean on him. So that's going to be great. He's got Patrick Mahomes. I think A.J. Brown will be a curious fit in Philly, but we know what he can do. And Jalen Hurts finally kind of has that number one guy he can lean on. And then Tyreek Hill, I mean, he can run a 2-yard route and take it to the house. So
it's true.
I think about what Jalen Waddle for me was last year with Tua, and he would put up just, a lot of quantity of catches. I think Tyreek Hill can do the same thing, but just flashier. He might be able to take a lot more of those to the house. So I love that. Josh Jacobs, I had him 2 years ago. Inconsistent. I don't know what Las Vegas is going to be kind of looking at. John Gruden wanted to pound him. Obviously, John Gruden's not there anymore. It's Josh McDaniels. How the Patriots use their running backs, I mean, it was like a 4-person committee, so I don't know if the Raiders are going to do the similar things. I just don't know about Josh Jacobs. And then I think same thing goes with like Austin Hooper, the tight end. So he's got really strong like key pieces that I would really like that might take a little bit, like Dameon Pierce or Chris Olave. But I mean, like Green Bay doesn't have anybody. Alan Lazard is like the guy in Green Bay right now, right? So we don't really know what he's going to look like, but he's got Aaron Rodgers. So surely it's going to probably turn out well. So he's going to have a lot of wiggle room with his running backs, or excuse me, his wide receivers. And then I'm curious to see, Kenneth Walker III, flashy at Michigan State. I think he's just been banged up, so he might take a little time. And Seattle's got like 4 running backs. And then Khalil Herbert was another guy I was looking at just because of he flashed really well last year. And I think it's David Montgomery. It's kind of like a top, like if he goes down again, he's been hurt, I think a few years in a row now. If he goes down again, it's like Khalil Herbert's like the instant fit in. And I think Khalil Herbert's got more appeal as a pass catcher. And I think Rashad Bateman's year got cut early last year because of injury, but now he's pretty much slotted to be the number 1 guy, obviously behind Mark Andrews. So I really, really liked his team as it was coming together. I think it was well put together, whether it was intentional or not. I doubt it was intentional. It was absolutely not intentional. It was just, I don't know. He just saw names like, okay, whatever. But bam, it looks really good. So,
I mean, all across pretty much every platform, the hot buzzwords were Dameon Pierce and Chris Olave. So I think he might have done a little bit of homework. Those were very, very sexy picks this year. Those are some hot names. Let's move on to a C grade from Yahoo for the Smarmy Bastards, Jason Servos' team with Cooper Kupp, Alvin Kamara, and J.K. Dobbins rounding off his top 3. How would the champ grade Mr. Servos' draft?
Well, I don't see Allen Robinson on here, who's a top 2 wide receiver, so allegedly. I gotta do it, gotta take the shots in there. But
yes, bring it up.
Yeah, I think he's got a really well put together team as well. Dak Prescott, Cooper Kupp. Obviously, we know what Cooper Kupp is, and Cooper Kupp is in a position to be really set up really well because Allen Robinson's on the team. Not OBJ anymore, but still, I think Allen Robinson's a threat with a good quarterback, and he finally has one. So teams might try and lock up Cooper Kupp. I think Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp are kind of not necessarily similar players because Allen Robinson doesn't have similar speed. Cooper Kupp's not, the fastest guy, but he can take it to the house. So I think Kupp's going to have another great year. I think his running backs are really good. Cam Akers, LA's been trying to get him the ball, just banged up. So I'm excited to see him. And then we'll see if Kamara kind of comes back to his old self. I think they're going to limit his touches from what I read. Not necessarily limit like pitch count, but he's just got a lot of tread on the tires. And, I think their offense is a little more prime. They don't have to lean so heavily on him with the likes of Michael Thomas coming back, Chris Olave in. So we'll kind of see. But, I mean, to your point, he's got J.K. Dobbins, who is primed for a good year. We'll see if Miles Sanders is any consistency. He's had him for like 7 years in a row now, and he's just been kind of up and down. I actually tried to trade for Miles Sanders, I think 2 years ago when I was in need of a running back and I was hurting real bad. He wouldn't give it to me because Miles Sanders had, I think, 1 good game, and then Miles Sanders just kind of plummeted, and whoever I picked up took off. So nice. There's some irony there.
I got another hot name for you that's been thrown around, Isaiah McKenzie in Buffalo, who is supposed to take over that spot previously held by Cole Beasley. This was a steal pick for Servos. Does that help his chances? Or what do you think about Isaiah McKenzie?
I don't think he's going to be the guy that, is going to put up a ton of consistency, if that makes sense, right? I mean, they used Cole Beasley really well, but you got to think Gabriel Davis took off last year. Now you have a true solid number 2 behind Stefon Diggs. Then you have Josh Allen, who runs all around. Dawson Knox is coming on as well. And then you have James Cook, who Buffalo is looking to incorporate into their passing game because that's what he did at Georgia. Yeah. So I think Isaiah McKenzie is in an interesting spot to make a lot of plays for Buffalo, but he's not like, in a pinch who's Josh Allen looking for on third down?
I'm so
not
stupid. Isaiah
gonna be him.
McKenzie is on Plow's team. So I'm
Okay.
I jumped
So
ahead.
I was gonna say I didn't really see him, but we can talk about him. But
So we'll copy that for the next team. So what was your grade for Jason?
I would say I would give it a B. I think he's
Okay.
got a solid team. His team looks really good. I think he's got a lot of wiggle room with the slot with Marquise Brown. Whether he does well with Kyler or not, he can switch him out for either running back or
Right.
Chase Claypool or whatever. And then curious to see what Jerry Jeudy does. Cortland Sutton is the guy right now in Denver from what I've seen. I drafted him, of course, with Russell Wilson. He's got like the biggest relationship, kind of like DK Metcalf vibes, right? Big,
Yeah.
tall, fast receiver, a la DK Metcalf. But Jerry Jeudy was a very smooth route runner at Alabama, hasn't had a quarterback to take advantage of that. Russell Wilson probably make that happen. So
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
he's got a pretty solid team.
All right, let's move on to the number 2 overall pick, David Plow. Rock ya bitches. He took Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, JT went first. And his round off his top 3 picks are Nick Chubb and T. Higgins. We already talked about Isaiah McKenzie. Where do you rank Plow's C grade? Do you give him a higher grade or lower grade? Or the same?
Maybe like a touch higher. Like a C plus, maybe a B minus. He's got, Joe Burrow. Love Joe Burrow. We saw what he did last year without an offensive line. So now they've got pieces in place to protect him better. Jamar Chase, obviously we know him. And I do believe they added a couple other pieces for Joe Burrow, and then Joe Mixon will be a huge incorporation as well. So I think Joe Burrow is going to have a great year. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Watched Hard Knocks. I'm a Detroit Lions fan now as well. So
Gotta love their new coach.
I love Dan Campbell. I
gotta
love
love
him.
Dan.
And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of similar story last year. Picked him up off waivers. He was kind of up and down a little bit, but now he's kind of consistently come out as a solid threat for Detroit. Not really an over-the-top guy, but that consistent, almost like a Jalen Waddle kind of guy for Detroit, where a lot of underneath stuff can make a flash happen, but just a lot of catches, just pile that kind of thing on. He's reliable, and Jared Goff, I presume, will go to him a lot, so he'll kind of have a lot of volume. Christian McCaffrey, it's just, can he stay healthy? Because we know what he can do. And then Nick Chubb, I think he's going to take more of a role because Kareem Hunt's kind of on the back, the downside, the kind of going down, right? Exactly. So I think they'll lean more on Chubb, and they're not going to have a consistent quarterback. Baker gets a lot of hate, but at least before his shoulder injury, he was playing really well. Deshaun Watson, I don't know when we'll see him, so could be relying on Nick Chubb to kind of carry that offense a little bit. But like Joe Burrow, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, T.J. Hawkinson, T. Higgins, the solid number 2 for Cincinnati. I like that stack. He's not going to have as many points as Jamar Chase, obviously, but a great pairing there. Hunter Renfrow, for me, he was a consistent slot guy / volume guy for the Raiders, but now they have Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams, very healthy receiver. He doesn't get hurt a lot, and I think the Raiders were just missing a true number 1 guy. They just kind of, Darren Waller got hurt, banged up a lot last year, so just kind of naturally fell down to Hunter Renfrow being this consistent, reliable guy that David Carr went to a lot. So I just don't know if he's going to have a similar year. Darren Waller healthy. Now you have Devontae Adams, the Fresno State link up. I don't like that as his number 2 wide receiver. He does have T. Higgins who can slot in. And then it's just kind of, we'll have to see what his flex look like. He doesn't have anybody that jumps off the bench for me. He's got Tyler Boyd, but you already have T. Higgins. Michael Carter flashed a little bit last year for the Jets, but now they have Breece Hall, who's supposed to be the every down guy. So, it's just like, who fits in the slot if you're not getting production? If you put T. Higgins as your starting wide receiver, you bump Renfrow out, maybe he's not seeing the volume. Who do you put in? Maybe Isaiah McKenzie. I don't know. We talked about it already. So where's the consistency at? So that's why just elevating a little bit. He's got some really strong names, but also a lot of injury prone guys. Chubb's injury prone. McCaffrey, obviously injury prone. Hawkinson injury prone, so it's just like if any of those guys goes down, he's in trouble.
Yes. Well, Austin, to spring something on you last second, the commish accidentally picked the wrong account for this Zoom call. So I have exactly 8 minutes left until the free trial runs out. So we're going to do lightning round here for the teams remaining, which is 3/4 of the team. So are you ready to do lightning round grade drafts?
All right, I'll do my best.
I have 8 minutes now. Okay, let's go to Insane Ground Posse. Joe Murdoch always drafts great running backs. That's his top 3. Najee Harris, Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams. They gave him a C, though. Not a lot of great wide receivers. What do you give Joe as grade?
I would stick with a C. Quarterback up and down, Jalen Hurts, Michael Thomas. What's he going to look like pairing with Jameis? Christian Kirk, same thing. What's Trevor Lawrence going to look like? Najee Harris, solid pick. No quarterback play in Pittsburgh. They'll probably lean on him again. Leonard Fournette, kind of bit up and down a little bit, just depending on how Tom Brady does. George Kittle, can he stay healthy? I think he does. Javonte Williams, I think, will be a pretty solid pickup in Denver with Russell Wilson pairing. And then on the bench, love Drake London. I was trying to draft him myself. He went before I could grab him. Kareem Hunt, probably not much there. Garrett Wilson will be interesting to see how he develops. Devontae Parker in New England as well. He was always a downfield threat for Miami. So we'll just kind of have to see, but I think his grade sticks where it needs to be.
Let's go on to McLaurin F1 Avalash Reddy's team. Got a C+, so now we're kind of inching towards the top half of the league. Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, and James Conner round up his top picks. Also picked up Justin Herbert. You give Bobby a C+, higher or lower?
I would probably stick with it. I mean, I love Herbert Allen connection. Jamar Chase, we know what he can do. Darren Waller, can he stay healthy? And then you look at his running backs. He's got Tony Pollard, who's not the number one guy in Dallas. Raheem Mostert, Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, just a lot of guys that like maybe they see some time, but he doesn't have a lot of consistency. We've already talked about how important it is in this league to have 2 solid running backs because it's so hard to get points out there, which is why I think there's always a run at running backs. Same thing in his flex. Rondell Moore, love him, Purdue guy. He's poised for a solid year. No DeAndre Hopkins. Rondell Moore flashed. Can he stay healthy? Can he produce the way he needs to? So I would probably stick with the grade just because his running back depth stinks. And after his top 2 wide receivers, also kind of a question mark.
All right, let's go over to Alan Nesson, 1974 Mecha Godzilla. Got a B grade from Yahoo. Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, and Kyle Pitts. That's a pretty strong trio right there. You give him a higher grade, lower grade, or stay at a B? You have one.
I would probably go a little bit lower, maybe like a C+. And the only reason I do that is because of the running back situation. Saquon Barkley, I mean, he was good his first couple years, and then the New York Giants just sucked so bad it really affected him. Then he got hurt. Same thing, Chase Edmonds in Miami. Is he going to be the number one guy? Is he not? He did some good things in Arizona. I just don't know, though. Rashad Penny, he's one of 5 running backs in Seattle. So what do we see there? Aaron Rodgers, Justin Jefferson. Brandon Ayuk is poised to have a good year. Kyle Pitts, same thing. It just depends on who's throwing the ball. Can you rely on Marcus Mariota? Or can you rely on Desmond Ridder? I don't know. That's what's going to matter.
All right, we got to move on to the next one. Austin, sorry to cut you off. Next,
why can't we just switch accounts and finish up?
I know. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that or not. How about let's go to Modelo Virus and I'll switch to see if I can even get in that account. I don't know. This is my work account. Modelo Virus, Jable Soul got a B from Yahoo. He was the only person not at the draft. But Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, and CeeDee Lamb, his top 3. So obviously very running back heavy. Do you give it? What grade do you give him, Professor?
I would stick with it or go a little bit higher. Maybe a B+. I think he's got a really solid team. Love his running backs. His receivers are pretty solid. Hopefully Carson Wentz can get Terry McLaurin the ball. CeeDee Lamb's the new number 1 in Dallas. We know what Lamar Jackson can do. Dawson Knox being a solid guy, building, growing in Buffalo. DeAndre Swift, I think, is the number 1 guy, even according to Hard Knocks. Then he's got Gabe Davis, number 2 on the bench. Allen Robinson's going to be a good complement to Cooper Kupp. And then his bench running backs, James Cook and James Robinson. Just curious to see what James Cook does. James Robinson is that complement to Travis Etienne. We'll see how Etienne kind of pans out. And I think Alec Pierce, a bit of a sleeper pick in Indy. He's got a good quarterback, able to throw to him. Matt Ryan, I know a lot of people don't think that, but I think Matt Ryan will be pretty solid. Could be a compliment to Pittman with his size. So I really like his draft. I think it's solid top to bottom. And he's got a lot of different plug-and-play options if someone's not panning out for him.
Gotcha. All right, moving on to your draft. Yahoo gave you a B. Dalvin Cook, Cortland Sutton, and Debo were your top 3 picks. Do you agree with Yahoo's grade? What would you give yourself?
I would probably stick with where I'm at on my grade. My second running back, Travis Etienne, is a little unproven. So is my tight end. I just don't know with A.J. Brown, is Dallas Goedert going to see a lot of the targets that he was seeing? Clearly, he's a reliable pick for that. But I do like Cole Kmet. He was just sleeper throughout the draft. A lot of high, praise for him building a relationship with Fields as it is. So I think I've got a good flip-flop there. And then, as you can see, I line myself with rookies per usual for me. Treylon Burks, Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs, all rookies, all good things being said about them. A lot of volume that could come their way. We'll kind of have to see how it goes. But, Romeo Doubs having Aaron Rodgers saying good things about him. Wan'Dale Robinson's like that slot squirrel guy that might just see a lot of volume because of speed. Treylon Burks is supposed to be the number 1 in Tennessee at some point. So we'll have to see. Stacked Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton in Denver. And then we know what Debo can do. Hopefully he can keep going. And then I'm on the Juju Smith-Schuster revival train in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes.
Right. True that. All right, moving on to mixed team. Ebenezer Scrooge is here. Yahoo gave him a B. Top 3 picks were Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, and Jalen Waddle, which I was a little puzzled at. I know he's a little banged up, but we'll see. What do you give Mick? He's one of the other 4 that got a B in this year's draft. What do you give?
I would maybe B minus, C plus. Again, running back, such a big, important component in this league. He's got David Montgomery. Can he stay healthy? Is he going to be the solid guy in Chicago with a new regime? Or are they going to try and move Fields around and throw the ball? Khalil Herbert might steal. A.J. Dillon's not the number 1 guy in Green Bay. Obviously, he's been used a lot in the goal line. He's kind of that bruiser if Aaron Jones isn't healthy or available. But it's just, he's not the guy. And you always want at least, someone that you absolutely 100% know is going to be the guy every time he walks onto the field. I just don't know about that. His receivers, though, obviously we know what Devontae Adams can do. I think he'll be just fine with Derek Carr. Jalen Waddle, I don't think Tyreek Hill's going to take too many catches away from him. I think Tyreek Hill's going to be able to open up the top, which will make Jalen Waddle even more valuable underneath because he's already got that Alabama / last year connection with Tua. Travis Kelce is the new number 1 in KC. He's going to have a phenomenal year. And I think DJ Moore is going to really benefit from Baker Mayfield being healthy and being able to throw him the ball.
Sorry, we have breaking news on LEG TV. We regret to inform you that Queen Elizabeth has passed away. And as you all know, she was a huge fan of the show, has been with us since day 1. With Sprinkles was on a regular on the show. And so we wish peace for her and her family. Queen Elizabeth dead at 3,000 years old. Okay. All right, Austin. So sorry, you were something about Daryl Henderson. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention.
You're good. I guess the question is,
what was your final grade of yourself? You said you want to stick with the B?
Yeah, but we went through like 2 other teams. We went so fast. I don't know. One, if we should go back and do again, since now we have more time.
Now let's focus on these last 2.
Okay.
Screw those other guys.
All right.
You can continue on your team.
Oh, well, there's not much. I mean, I think I'm top to bottom. I always have a plan of when I draft, and I feel pretty good about my guys, and I think I got some depth, and I'm hoping get some production out of the young guys I always take. And excited to see this team kind of do its thing and see what we got.
Well, maybe these next 2 teams who also got a B and an A- may dethrone you. Let's go to the second highest draft score. That is Party Like a Gronk Star. The Commission's team got a B from Yahoo. Top 3 picks were Stephon Diggs and Aaron Jones and Elijah Mitchell there to round it off. Yahoo again gave a B grade. How would you feel, champ, as the second runner-up?
I would say maybe a little under.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's-
why is that?
It's the theme that I've given everyone that's gotten a solid grade. An under part is the running back situation. It's just Aaron Jones has not been healthy recently. He's dynamic when he is healthy, but now that AJ Dillon has kind of come on the scene stronger with him out, is Aaron Jones going to get limited touches? Is he not going to see goal line work as much? You know, like, is he still going to be the premier guy in Green Bay? I just don't know. Kind of a similar thing, Eli Mitchell. I mean, I know San Francisco kind of cleaned out their running back room a little bit as well, but you know, I just don't know if he's going to be the only guy. And I feel like I read something about, you know, kind of a committee again with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I think Trey Lance, it's going to go by him as well. They have Jimmy G still, so they can, you know, you'll have a proven guy to come in and help you out. But
If Trey Lance fails, yeah. Or win.
yeah, I mean, you just don't know. Cordarrelle Patterson, I think, again, like, are they going to use him as much? Are they not? He's got a lot of tread on the tires, or, you know, so it's kind of the same thing. And then J.D. McKissick, he's been a solid pass catching guy in Washington. I've heard Antonio Gibson's kind of tumbling down the depth chart a little bit, so maybe that opens the door for him, but we just don't know. So if you were to lose Aaron Jones or, you know, lose Eli Mitchell, who both got banged up last year and have they're not the cleanest bill of health, now what are you going to do? And running back is just so hard to fill on the waiver wire. It's probably the only position that you cannot get a solid guy to come in and, you know, produce for your team unless it's like a clear cut number one's hurt and this is the number two guy. And even then it can be a coin flip. So that's why it's just in a league where running backs can score you so many points based on catches and how dynamic they're starting to become in the league. It's just such an important position, I think, along with tight end, that's why I'm going under. You know, Kyler Murray without DeAndre Hopkins, I think, struggled last year. Does Arizona have a plan in place to help him succeed a little bit better? You know, using Rondale Moore, quick passes, giving Kyler options to get the ball out fast. You know, I just don't know. You know, I think he'll be dynamic, but, you know, hopefully more old Kyler versus what we saw last year where he struggled pretty heavily without DeAndre Hopkins. I think Stephon Diggs, obviously a great pick. Love him. He's taken me to the title and won it for me before, so love that. Mike Williams, I like the deep threat ability. Can he stay healthy? I think Adam Thielen is a great sleeper pick. People forget, I mean, he's on the older side, but he's still a great receiver. Justin Jefferson commanding the attention. Kirk Cousins already has a relationship with Adam Thielen as far as, you know, pass catching ability and knows who he is. So maybe we see Thielen perform a lot better than he normally has if he stays healthy. I think Dalton Schultz is a great pickup. He's kind of that safety net for Dak Prescott. And now that Michael Gallup's coming off injury, Amari Cooper's not there anymore, Dalton Schultz might see a lot of work as well behind CeeDee Lamb as a solid pass catching option. And then I love the George Pickens pick. I've heard a lot of great things. A rookie out of Georgia. Obviously the question mark comes from who's throwing the ball in Pittsburgh, but I think a reliable, you know, I think he'll kind of grow into his role and could turn some heads. And then Devontae Smith, kind of the same thing. A solid number two, I would say, behind A.J. Brown now. So I think it's a good, you know, you can switch him out for somebody without having too much of a worry with anything on that. So I just give you a little bit low of a grade just because your running back situation. I've done it with everybody else that's had a questionable running back situation. I don't see anybody that you can just plug back in and say, okay, this isn't working or they're hurt. I can plug this guy in and have some reliable results at least. Just not really sure if I see that, and that's why I'm going lower.
Yeah. No, that's a very fair point. You don't like the Mecole Hardman? What do you see him doing in Kansas City?
Well, I mean, I think they've talked about him stepping up as the deep threat. He was a fast guy, I think, out of Georgia as well. Tyreek Hill no longer there, but we'll have to kind of see, what he does. Patrick Mahomes relies on Travis Kelce a lot. He relied on Tyreek Hill a lot. And even when those guys, when Tyreek Hill was out or Kelce was out, the ball just got spread around to all these different people. So I just, with Juju Smith-Schuster being more of that reliable safety net guy, not necessarily your deep threat, I think maybe Mecole Hardman flashes a little bit. I think he'll have some games where he really kind of takes off, but until I see it consistently, it's still just a coin flip. He could go off for a crazy amount, or he could disappear because Kelce and Juju Smith are kind of taking the underneath stuff, the volume, because they're trying to protect themselves over the top. So
right.
It's just kind of an I don't know, prove it to me kind of a thing.
Okay. Speaking of really trying to prove the grade here, the highest grade in the 2022 LEG draft was given to John Dahlgren, who barely avoided the Hoffa last year. Yahoo gave him an A-. He did fly all the way in from San Diego. So again, thank you, John, for doing that. Austin Eckler, Mark Andrews, and Josh Allen rounds up his top picks. Do you agree with Yahoo's pick? A-, is that too high or not high enough?
It's certainly high enough. I would say maybe going down to a B+. Again, it's running back related, just because Antonio Gibson, I mean, it's a flex running back, so it's not all that bad, which is, I feel okay leaving it at an A- because he can plug and play somebody else. And maybe Antonio Gibson gets his shit figured out, so he can come right back in. But I mean, Austin Eckler has emerged as a great option in LA as long as he stays healthy. Great pass catching option. Outside, I think Ezekiel Elliott was having a great year until he hurt. I think it was his PCL last year, and he tried to play through it. It obviously affected him a lot, and we saw a lot of Tony Pollard. Now Ezekiel Elliott's back healthy again, and despite Pollard emerging as a threat, I think the way Dallas plans to use Pollard is maybe more in the passing game a little bit, but leaving Ezekiel Elliott in as that running back option and flexing Pollard out. So I think Ezekiel Elliott is a solid pick as long as he stays healthy. Mark Andrews, we know he is forever the safety blanket for Lamar Jackson, so that's going to be really good there. And I actually talked with him about Brandon Cooks and Darnell Mooney both. They're not projected a lot of points on, Yahoo, but if you just look at, for example, Brandon Cooks, he's had every single year he's been in the league, except for one, which I think he was hurt. He's had 1,000-yard season. He's the clear-cut number one in Houston. I think Davis Mills, the quarterback, going into year 2, has stuff to prove, but also flashed really well right at the end of the season and had a good connection with Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is the clear-cut number one now. No more Will Fuller, no more, anybody trying to take targets away from him or anything like that. That's why I think Brandon Cooks is going to be a really strong option. Same thing with Darnell Mooney. He is the clear-cut number one. He is great in space. He can get open. He's a great route runner. It just all comes down to, can Justin Fields get him the ball accurately? So that's going to be the question, but he is the number one in Chicago. Don't mistake it. He is the guy. Him and Cole Kmet are the two guys that are going to be, the names to look out for, catching the ball from Justin Fields in Chicago. So I think their projected points are too low. I think they're going to, I think we'll see them really kind of take off. And then he's got Amari Cooper, who it just depends on who throwing him the ball in Cleveland, but he's not surrounded by high profile, but in Dallas, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, a lot of guys that could be reliable to catch the ball in Cleveland or in Dallas. So now with Amari Cooper in Cleveland, there was not really a true number one there. Obviously the quarterback play is going to come into effect here, but he can get open. Amari Cooper is a smooth route runner, as smooth as they come. So he will be able to get open. It's just going to depend on who can get him the ball. If they can do it, I think he's going to have a solid year, and he also has to just stay healthy. So I think maybe leaving the draft grade as is, because I think A- does it justice. He's really solid. Antonio Gibson's the flex option. hopefully he can figure it out by the time, you know, he needs to rotate running backs out. And then it just, can Austin Eckler and Ezekiel Elliott stay healthy, because they've been banged up before. I think Dallas has a plan to keep Ezekiel Elliott a little more healthy. And then Austin Eckler, you know, you don't want him to lose touches, but he's so dynamic out of the backfield, especially value catching the ball. So I think he's just got a really solid team. He might need a little bit of work as far as bench depth. Not really liking that at all. But he took a flyer on DeAndre Hopkins. Can he wait for 6 weeks till he comes back? I think so. So
Yeah. Very astute, accurate review of the draft. We appreciate it, Mr. Still. What are your brave predictions? Who do you think is your biggest threat this year in the 2022 season? What team are you looking at like, oh, these guys, got to watch these guys?
You know, I think Dahlgren's a guy, having just reviewed his team. He's got a lot of strong consistency there. So I think he's got a lot of potential to threaten. I think Jabel's team is really strong as well. Again, just solid top to bottom. He's got a pretty good bench as well. I think he'll be solid. And then, you know, I think I said it last year. I'll probably say it again. If Shook actually pays attention, actually uses his lineup the way it needs to be.
Actually sets his lineup, yeah.
Actually sets his lineup. I mean, I think he's got a sneaky good team. I really like some of those sleeper picks that we already talked about. And I just saw something from one of my go-to sources for football as far as draft news and, in-season stuff, the Draft Network. They have one of the multiple writers have predicted Dameon Pierce as the offensive rookie of the year this year. So for what it's worth, he might have a really solid guy on his bench or on his team that he may or may not have known about. I think, again, he had a lot of sleeper guys that I had my eyes on. And as people know, my teams kind of come out of nowhere with guys that are like, how are they going to be good? Like Jonathan Taylor wasn't drafted all that high last year. Jamar Chase was another guy, Cooper Kupp, like all these guys that people didn't really think about because we're going after big names. They performed for me. And every year I always have a big list of guys that I'm looking at, and people have been kind of taken out of that, which I think they're, maybe doing research, except for maybe Shook. But again, I think he's got a lot of guys on his team, or a couple guys that can make huge impact and put up a lot of points. Dameon Pierce being probably my favorite one. And again, I just saw something, prediction to be offensive rookie of the year. So that's, you got to perform to do that. And a lot of people are confident in that.
Should be a very interesting season. And about Shook, I believe someone won the Hoffa and then won the championship the very next year. Do you know who that is, Mr. Stoll?
I do know it was me. And that's okay. But what we'll have to see is I had a top 5 scoring team in the league when I won the Hoffa. I think I was like the 4th highest scoring team.
It's true.
So it was just a lot of unfortunate instances of that lined up against me. But you know what? You gotta fall all the way down to the bottom before you gotta get to the top. And having shown 3 years of consistency like this league hasn't seen, I think think we'll know. But it's just all about if he pays attention. Really, he's getting stronger in his drafts, but by like week 5, if he's losing like 2 or 3 games, does he set his lineup?
Yes. So you're saying there's a chance for Mr. Nick Shook.
I'm saying there's a chance he doesn't win the Hoffa. Yes. Yeah.
That would be good. Well, Mr. Stoll, thank you for this very professional interview. It is always a pleasure. Good luck to you, sir. Do you have anything to tell the rest of the league before we sign off?
Don't let JD get it twisted. That is not Hunter break. That's Tom Brady break. From a long-standing bet when we worked together. I think he wasn't expecting I can't even remember the grounds of it. Obviously involved Tom Brady, and I think winning the Super Bowl with Tampa. And he said, if Tom Brady comes back, because I think he retired and then unretired for the first time, and said, if he comes back and he wins the Super Bowl, I will name my son Tom Brady break. And he said that, of course, as a huge joke because no one knew what was going to happen. And then Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. And so Hunter's just a facade name. His real name is Tom Brady Break. Don't let our commish get it twisted.
His real name is going to be grounded for 2 days, mister. Unreal. Well, thank you, Mr. Stoll. We appreciate you joining us on LEG TV. Good luck to you, sir, this season.